I ain't even using no script for this one, man. Another L in debate, B1 brother Moses house, way. Man, no script needed, man. The reason why is because I'm probably talking up here and I need to keep it on the screen. There's a couple of things that really matter to me. In fact, I've listed out six. There's a couple of things that matter, but I'll give you six of them. Number one is strategy. Number two is transformation. Number three is empowerment. Four is cultural relevance. Five is community building. And then six is actual information sharing. Now, I didn't prioritize those. I just wrote them down as things that are actually interesting to me. And for me, B1 brother Moses, to lose the debate, I just say houseway. So here's what we're going to do for those who continue to have very strong issues with the pro-black, the black channels. Actually, just going to share just a little bit of information, some quick updates. It's going tonight, and I actually didn't watch a good stream last night. Great information, powerful information, even so I could be on a debate, and that debate was not taken as seriously as I would have liked to seen it. So let's do this. Show the receipts. Should we show them receipts? Yeah, let's go on and just show receipts. Let me get me off the screen so you can focus on the information. First and foremost, who is J.C. Watts? He's another one of those conservatives, was able to take the charisma that he had and turn it into political action. Someone who is on the conservative side, but still identifies with cultural relevance. You can hear it in his tone, you can hear it in his epitaphs, his nuances, how he carries himself. J.C. or Julius Caesar Watts. Leave that up there so you can get a little bit about the brother who I share a birthday with. And I'm going to let that be the start to a good build. Because rather than take a L, I'd rather just continue to show and prove. One of the things that we are struggling with understanding is the very essence of this image that you see here. This vaccination idea. Struggling with it. Because as we know, and all indicators point, that is the actual injection of the very thing that they want to see if your body is able to withstand and fight against, if your body develops the antibodies to fight back against it. And in order to make that reality so, that's the thing that we're struggling with, whether or not you accept this from your state or from your government, or do you have the right to decline? And in order to have the authority to make that decision, first, it's going to be predicated on the type of data that you are able to present. What does your actual argument entail? And so being able to look up the viable sources of where that antibody originates. And so when I say where that antibody originates, one would have to then understand that what they are proposing, this vaccination, by whatever name they call it, it originated either by being manufactured in a lab or it originated from someone's body. I got you, bro, George. I don't know why you don't got no wrench. You should have one. I digress. Not only is it the type of information that you bring or the type of sources, but where do those sources come from? Places like JSTOR, access of about $199 a year. Which becomes a slight investment for the type of data you're actually able to present. Today, we have a couple of major sources that we're getting that data from. One being the government's website, the coronavirus.gov, and the broader scientific community. For those who don't like to identify with Black as a Black community, but they can identify with a scientific community. And while I believe J.C. Watts does carry the torch and the mantle for his elder, Larry, I wouldn't hold it against him because I know what he's already up against. Look, this remdesivir, there are 5 things that one could know about it, according to Financial Times. It's big from Anthony Fauci. Something that he says may have some promise. Something that places like California are dealing with right now. And as we continue to have this conversation about vaccinations, there is another drug or cure or therapy and another conversation happening. From what I gather with the research that I've been embarking upon, this journey of learning and acquiring information, back to the primary, with the National Institute of Health as the primary, National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health here in the US, is that the absence or the lack of data that is culturally relevant is used against us. For me, that is a sociological challenge. Or as we study the interactions between the people of society and those people and their interactions with their community, civil service, and then broader than that, their interactions with the state and vice versa, the state to the community, as well as the state to the individual household. And don't forget the community itself as an organization, as a structured entity, as a grouping like a kidney of cells or households that interacts with those households as well as the state, all influencing each other in a triangular motion, according to, I would say, early philosophical white boy, German, Hegel. Hegel's debunked with one theory, Neuhauser. I'm not just being euphemistic. These are facts. And he said that is not just a triangle, but if it was still at the heart or the eye of that triangle, there would be ethics. And while we're yet to achieve the egalitarian society and declaration after declaration have been drafted, we are still far from achieving universal human rights. Although to carry that mantle forward are pro-Blacks. Our argument moved from the 40s, where this Declaration of Rights, where one could identify as they saw fit, towards their self-realization. Article 22, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Moses improvised. But the self-realization, that part. That document, produced after one of the most heinous wars that this globe has ever seen, that document, that standard, that Julius Caesar standard, now that's a euphemism, but it's also a reference I'm trying to tell you here, situates itself in another argument that kicked up around the 60s around economics. It was the poverty debate. I'm going to read a little bit of this by Jerry D. Marx, not the Marxist that their other people are talking about, but the one that we would refer to as a chronicler of that 1960s poverty debate. PhD, New Hampshire. I got it. Share cookies. They want to know who's viewing, who's presenting, who's providing that real fact-based, solution-oriented information about, well, one perspective of that poverty debate is the affluent society. Today, you're play out as Black folks blaming the bourgeoisie or the elite class or the talented, and they will make the reference that it happened even before here, but it was in this era that conversation happened and the division amongst Blacks started to really resonate. You will also see here that land ownership dwindles. That while the rest of America was experiencing a Great Depression that pro-Blacks had already understood. And then there was war. And our great migration from the South, around 45% of us that ended up leaving, found themselves in spaces where economics was a different form of argument, and they needed language. Again, as the decade of the 1960s began, the United States had the highest mass standard of living in the world history. The strong American post-war economy of the late 1940s and 1950s continued into the 1960s. It was strong. In fact, from 1940 to 1960, the United States gross national product increased fivefold. We see what it's done since then. We are in the trillions, and we're still thriving. There were several reasons for this economic growth. As previously discussed, the military spending during the World War II finally pulled the economy out of the Great Depression. You always hear me say B1, salute. Generations after generations of the Jenkins African Americans or the pro-Black mind state that said, I need to be able to defend myself. I will exercise Second Amendment. Not all of us became conservative. Some of us are still super liberal and even radical about that. But in our Antifa, excuse me, that may not be the right word, so I'll just continue to read from what the PhD says. I digress. The temporary curtailment in production of many consumer products during the war resulted in a burst of consumer demand at war's end. Servicemen rushed home to take a job, buy a car, purchase a home in the suburbs, and start a family. This led to a baby boom and further consumer demand for products. During this period, growing U.S. corporations were well positioned to meet both domestic and foreign demand for products, given the crumbled economic infrastructure of foreign competitors, such as Japan and Germany. Now, you know me, I just jump right into the source that I provide, skipping all of this context, tell you that this debate situates in poverty and that poverty debate of the 1960s. And then I show you that the African-American median income comparatively, so the 47 million of us and where we're at, if the number is true at 2.6, it would be even higher. If the number is a little bit lower, it is right there where we're at. But I say on a global scale, we compare countries, and the country that we will be around is right there near Japan. when it comes to that same metric on a global scale. I just give the fact and then I make it relevant to today. But I'll go on. Because military spending during the Cold War rivalry with the Soviet Union added further to this economic expansion, creating a formidable military-industrial complex in the United States. Leading intellectuals began to deliberate on the nature of this society and the impact it was having on American citizens. You know, that society where now everyone is expecting economics. And so the whole community argument can get pushed to the side a little bit. In 1958, economist John Kenneth Galbraith published The Affluent Society, in which he described the growing power of American corporations, the big argument, right? The big dogs, the big cats, the Wall Street, you know, they about Main Street, they you know, that argument starts to take its inception. Their success at producing material goods, their ability to create consumer demand through what? Advertising. Hold that, because as you know, the great Black conservatives like to refer to that target market research, and that one is based deeply on that how to market to the Negro. Same period. We know that, but we don't know this context. And I skip through all of this context, synthesize the information, provide the source, and present it during a timed, structured debate. And they say I'm dismissing what they're saying. I digress. Galbraith argued that in the old world, poverty was an all-pervasive fact of life, but that in the contemporary United States, social and economic policies could be based on the fact that the ordinary individual, which is where they keep arguing from, has access to amenities, foods, entertainment, personal transportation, and plumbing. The same things they try to say about Pookie and Ray Ray. While he needs to get off his ass and pull himself up by his straps, he ought to be fortunate that he lives in America, because America gives him all of these things. They say it from their end in order to paint the Pookie and Ray Ray, which is what was brought up in a structured public debate again with me. They try to paint my brothers, my family, I am who exactly they are imagining in their head, except I am not when I'm standing next to John Kenneth Galbraith, or when I'm quoting Larry Elder, or if JC or Julius Caesar Watts is vouching for me. They say, compare it to a century ago, which is a talking point of another conservative, high-ranking, economically astute, erudite, if you want to, based off the level of intense research they have done, Thomas Sowell. Four years later, in 1962, social critics, see, they like to say it's the cultural things, Black society, and it's just fucked up, bro, and it's the dumbest. So Michael Harrington chose to emphasize the other America, which is what was brought up. It creates an other America. Thank you. And it's culture of poverty, the same exact talking points used in the debate with me last night on the same information that I was telling him. Very coherent, very cohesive, but just follow me. This, he argued, was land of between 40 million and 50 million, relatively invisible, poor people. What do they say about Black folks? They don't got skills. The unskilled workers. What did I tell you? They had just left that deep South. Many of them, 45%, 58%, all the way up to like the 90s, still live in the South. Migrant farm workers was their trade. Minorities, which is the argument today. Are you talking about minorities or people of color? All of those arguments, you can't be pro-Black if you're using people of color or minor. People for whom work was sporadic. Something that I used as a quote there. I was like, look, man, even when it comes to insurance and these jobs, We need the information for our track records. Tell you that there are some 30-year-olds who will still tell you that their track record for work is spotty at best, sporadic if you want to use the other big words. But we could talk about pores later. Demeaning and demoralizing. Now, demoralizing is the big one because you once would have to believe in morals to say something is demoralizing. And we know that things will all have a meaning as we keep reading. To be sure, the author goes on, the other America is not impoverished in the same sense as those poor nations where millions cling to hunger as a defense against starvation. This country has escaped such extremes. That does not change the fact that tens of millions of Americans are, that is right there. That does not change the fact that tens of millions of Americans are at this very moment maimed in body and spirit, existing at levels beneath those necessary for human decency. And so, if these people are not starving, they are hungry and sometimes fat with hunger. For that is what cheap foods do. They are without adequate housing and education and Medicare. But even more basic, this poverty twists and deforms the spirit. The American poor are pessimistic and defeated, and they are victimized by mental suffering to a degree unknown in suburbia. End quote. The very legitimate argument that pro-blacks talk about the less of these or the lesser of these can only be substantiated once you start looking at those other countries to whom that argument refers. That argument refers to countries that are so impoverished that their people are fat from hunger. Who does that sound like? Again, I tell you that it is a reference deeply rooted in a or I can just show it. And so we go to the International Monetary Fund. So I skip all of that context during debate, thinking that the person who I'm talking to, since they are using these words, that they have gotten to the premise of what that argument means. If you tell African Americans in America that you, Pookie and Ray Rays, need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, again, making the reference to the previous debates, Booker T. Washington, and then the Pookie and Ray Ray argument, meaning the Negroes of today, the thug, you drug dealer, you marijuana pushing punk, telling him, Negro, you don't have it nearly as bad as the men in countries that are fat from hunger, their children with the flies flying around them and shit. The $5 a day commercials. Tell me what that media or that advertisement is. You know it, I know it. Tell me what is being advertised, and I'll tell you what they're trying to sell. The starving, incapable, incompetent, demoralized, defeated Black in whatever society in the world they live in. And when I progress the argument, I tell you that that is from that conservative lens, that I am liberal, super liberal, radicalized on the other end, and not that conservative. And the only reason that I am acknowledging it in the debate is to show you that I understand whose source you are referring. And despite the fact that you are not given the source, I know whom you're talking to, so let's talk. And in global economics, the conservative talking point about even our black drug dealer is one of excellence compared to other countries' men. That the black drug dealer was actually clocking more dollars. They said this is what they live off of in a month. Well, that young black drug dealer who could not get his license for his work, who was labeled and prosecuted a criminal for his entrepreneurial spirit, who was damn near broken by the system, was still doing better than the men labeled black in other countries by far, whooping their ass and better able to provide for their children, except for the racism that was enabled in our system. Except that the odds that we are up against is political as well. You would be a fool to be an African American not to assume some form of allegiance. You would be even worse as someone who claims national pride to dismiss blacks in America. And when you are a Negro doing both, you are a traitor to your race and your country. Now, we have more than 33 states within our country that have already decided to do some type of medical marijuana reform. Even more accepted in society is at least the very idea of holistic health. And you have those who are arguing that the pharmaceutical companies have made it mandatory, even to your children and their ability to attend certain schools or to get the benefits of access to certain institutions. The pharmaceutical companies have made it mandatory, even through our ancestral right to education. The idea of education and information as being a pathway, the dissemination of information. Not only can they afford the media or the advertising, they can afford the curriculum. And your rights as a household, as you interact with the community and as you interact with the state. Your rights are the ones they are purchasing. And it's amazing how they can convert human rights into economics, digital currency. And if we get tired of comparing us to the world, because it's 47 million of us and there are countries with 47 million people, it seemed like a very reasonable expectation for a debate to me, rather than trying to isolate an individual particularly. I could even get as small to say, all right, all people convicted of marijuana. But for me, I would get substantially greater odds by saying that 80% of those convicted for marijuana, which has already been proven, that were black. And they would say, or Latino. But I would just say, or black, because them niggas be niggas to me, man. Hey, 100. But that's California. So if we can't go there, then let's bring it back to the United States, where people like to have the conversation. But again, that's nationalism. And if you're so concerned with national best interest, then why are you going against entrepreneurship? If you're so concerned about the individual's rights, then why are you siding with the state that is circumventing the rights of that group that we are fighting to protect the rights of? especially when it comes to the big interests and big corporations like the pharmaceutical companies that will make a vaccination treatment. They will get that through the FDA faster than we can get our marijuana through. How, Sway? How long and how hard of a struggle, how many L's have we taken from individual households? How many Black men had been marginalized by the targeted and selective enforcement of the law? And out of all of the big pharmaceutical ploys, not the opioids, not cocaine, but now even as we're seeing dispensaries pop up, we see that the dispensaries somehow could remain open during a global pandemic. But that very same business model, which can survive a global pandemic, was outlawed and prohibited specifically against Black men. The cost to which our national deficit continued to increase, and the amount of goods that we were exporting continued to decrease. Our expertise in marijuana is globally unmatched. San Fernando Valley, Humboldt County, they can't fuck with us in Amsterdam. Morocco got some products, dabbies or whatever you like. They're good on the market too. But on a global scale, when it comes to both indica and sativa, they could not match our agricultural output at the same rate to which someone may be able to purchase their tobacco. Our product was outlawed. Our agricultural commodity was shut down. Our household good, where today you can make a face mask which will not protect against shit. It won't even protect an Asian facing racial discrimination from somebody afraid that the stereotype is true. And so while I present the facts and while I present the source, for some unrealized expectation, I keep losing debates in this space. So let me help you out. Tonight, April 30th, 2020, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 30 minutes from now, there will be another opportunity to observe pro-Black, social, political, and economic debate. And it won't be from B1 Brother Moses, unfortunately, or fortunately, since I keep losing. Freaking weirdos. But it will be hosted by those who are actually having the conversations at that high level. Of course, J.C. Watts, Chairman, Interim CEO of Black News Channel, will be a part of it, as well as to be expected, Chief Operating Officer, or someone representing Combs Enterprises, founder, chairman, and CEO of Operation Hope, John Hope Bryant. And this is the SBA and the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council for Underserved Community Partnerships, promoting CARES Act for small business and nonprofits. Some people, again, will say J.C. Watts is a conservative, is not for Black progress. Some people will say, well, look, again, the Rainbow Push Coalition is working their way into Black spaces. If you're including LGBTQ people in it, then it's not for Black progress. Some people will be distracted and say, that's that hippity hip hop, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, Sean Combs, East Coast, West Coast rivalry music, and celebrities are not pro-Black. They destroyed the community. Some people will say anything to deflect from the topic. But I don't. I'm B1 Brother Moses, and that's all I got. Let me see. Can I bring me back in? There I go. B1 Brother Moses. That's all I got. And I'm out. So it pays to be first. Who is that? That was probably my brother, big bro. George Macon 2 was first, man. And I got to see how I can get you a wrench. Thanks for stopping by and showing some love for those of y'all that came and rocked with us. Again, as you see what the title says, I'm not bitter that I lost the debate, because for me, debate is about the opportunity to present the information on a broader platform than if I was just on my own platform and saying it myself. So it's one thing to do this research. It's another thing to actually be involved in it. But where we struggle is actually growing the participation in telling our story, the media. So those who are actually B1 and doing shit, we are looking for those platforms to connect and collaborate with so we can just present that information. You know what I'm saying? Because there is a lot of bullshit propaganda out there that would show Black men across the world not able to take care of their kids, in condition of starvation and famine, Black countries, you know, whatever it is that they want to say. They want to paint the Black man out to be anything other than exceptional. For us, we ought to take that as, you know, an insult. We ought to feel encouraged by it, by us, when we see more Black people who are standing up, being vocal, advocating, finding their way in when it comes to bringing that real information. I'm B1 Brother Moses. You can find me on a couple of different pages, like George Macon 2's channel. We always go in the creation of Black ghettos. He allowed me to do my first dissertation there on a broader space, which is when I first started off just doing the research on myself, my own family. I knew what my grandparents told me. I knew the names, but I did not know where it actually originated from. And so in order to find out where it originated from, unfortunately, a good starting point, you still check it off the list, but where does the surname Jenkins originate in America? And so trace that back to the late 1600s with the Jenkins, and all the slave trade and everything was going on, gave reason to believe that those could exactly be those people. That's Charleston. And so they're in Charleston, and underneath all of that same very land, turns out, is the Sherman Reservation. So, of course, I'm going to continue to advocate for Black First. I'm going to continue to advocate for reparations and reparations claims. I'm going to continue to do the research there, because that 40 acres in the mule argument is the biggest and most necessary thing. Now, 40 acres is huge. That is a hell of a lot of potential. And my challenge is always to look at 40 acres and consider what that would actually mean in today's terms. Where would you map out the 40 acres? I look at the Sherman Reservation as more than enough, but we need, just like Montgomery said in the 1800s, none of this land can be occupied by a Black man, not even the state. Now, we can pay taxes, so we can communicate via commerce, we can trade, but that land cannot be under the ownership of any non-American descendant of slavery on our side. Now, the passing along of our inherited land is the biggest violation of civil rights. That is still our birthright. That is our claim, and those are our people. And until they make that right, they should not have a day of silence. And in fact, until they get that right, that is like one of the only things that you really should be saying to the other side, outside of things that facilitate commerce. We can trade, we can keep commerce flowing, but they cannot be the proprietors of ownership. Right now, I have dates with Black men who struggle to retain their identity, and that hurts me, because I think I'm talking to another pro-Black brother who's building and doing great works. Now, for me, I understand that that pro-Black expresses itself in many different ways. Pro-Black is still the representation of how one takes care of their children. I would agree. I would also agree to that diversionary conversation around where are the Black marriages. You can have that conversation as well, but not during a public debate about the rights of pro-Blacks. It misses me every time. You want to talk specifically about an individual pro-Black and what information you've done in researching them, I'll say, all right, that's cool. I don't have to go that far. I can look, I can read, I can feel, but then I have to get back to work, because the people like the J.C. Watts, the people like the John Hope Bryants, these people are not just depending on a sounding board, but of actual action plans and committees to be formed and sustained by those people who aim to benefit the most from them. You cannot get mad at those people saying underserved communities if you know that you are exactly who they're talking about, and that skill set that you have, or that contribution that you could lend, you are still apprehensive about lending. Now, in this space, let me open up one more time this information sharing. This social experiment that we have going on. Let me find it real quick. Let me build with you. Open. Nope. Yep. I got 15 minutes until that starts, and I'm gonna jump into that. So Damon John has virtual power lunches. Excuse me. The guy who was on Shark Tank. Now, one might want to focus on the Caucasians or on JTV or QVC television, but if you are an African-American entrepreneur and you don't follow this one, who wanted his seat at the table and still wants his seat at the table to be all inclusive of Black entrepreneurs, Black businesses, Black minds, Black thinkers, engineers, scientists, if you don't add this man and follow him, this man does the virtual lunch the same way I'm having a debate with a brother who's looking disinterested. I could have been having a conversation with goddamn Draymond John. But these dudes don't understand that they wasting a real nigga's time. Start treating these dudes like ladies when they request debates. Nigga, no. Nigga, I'm not debating you because you're not taking this shit serious. No, we got work to do and we out here. Fuck the games. You fucking clowns, man. It was two parts of the manosphere that I did not like in those conversations. The freaking weirdos, first of all, those people who haven't figured out that the Black woman is a precious gem. Get one in your corner and rock with it. Life is easier right now because I do got a woman who, look, I call on my woman. I be like, hey, and she responds just like that. She became my rib, even though I didn't know I was missing a rib until I found her. That's just all right, man. But I'm a grown man, 37. You 22, 24. I ain't telling you that. Get your work. You got work. But for these grown-ass men who seem to be having an identity crisis, man, look, this seems to be a good brother to connect with. He'll take the suit off and put his T-shirts on. You remember the FUBU made it in the stores and Macy's and all of that hard work and hustle? All of that shit. Right now, we still talking to people who can't get a drop shipping business to grow because we got so much division. You open up T-shirts and shit. Black men are perfect. And motherfuckers won't even buy Black men are perfect T-shirts because of the division. Because we got too many fucking weirdos. And the other one is the clowns. They are the African Americans who are there just to run interference for white people. No, we trying to create spaces where our networks and our businesses can actually get a residual stream of income from them. Damn, got to pull a RBR and start talking in hypotheticals, that YouTube money. When it can see right there on the stream, the brother is saying, let's do a virtual lunch. Call me. But not just that one, I'm going to give you another one. Because these dudes act like there's no form of pro-black that they can identify with. And so now they got to keep talking about all pro-blacks. Pro-black this, pro-black that. No, if you got something on your mind, man, get off on who you mad at, nigga. Stop being a weird-ass nigga and a clown. Whoever you mad at, go have that conversation. Go flood that nigga inbox. But don't waste my time on a debate talking about bullshit. Oh, the B1's the B1 network. Look, that is the CEO of the Hope Foundation and his team. I met this dude at the airport one day, had the conversation with him. He stopped, didn't even get in the car, just sat there and talked to a brother. I told him, look, I met you once before this at Morehouse College. You came and gave a presentation. Here's what you said that was most important to me and how I've applied it in my life. Now, here's some areas that I'm also looking to grow. You know what that man said? He said, if you was a true student, then tell me what your FICO score is, something along those lines. I said, I've been able to grow that FICO score as a student, which means I didn't have a lot of income. I was a veteran just getting basic housing allowance, but I still have a wife and kids to take care of. And so my wife had to work. We've been living off trying to build a credit score, essentially off of a disability check, student loans, and a wife working as a teacher, which you already know is a government job. One of the teachers' jobs is very underpaid, but we still providing for our family, and we still walking in the foundational principles of my ancestors who told you that education or the oral tradition or the dissemination of information is important and vital to the development of Black men, healthy minds, and strong spaces. And inside of our community, we do have those leaders who are doing the work. So stop being a distraction, these fucking weirdos. But here, I really like this email that they sent out. See, they have these interactive communications. If you actually fuck with Black people who are doing shit, it make me want to ask him, show your track record then. Show me your motherfucking emails and who the fuck is contacting you. Because right now, all I hear is weird shit. But the COVID-19 response, that was relative for us. In the midst of a crisis, lives the uncertainty of what comes next. With each passing day, Americans are reminded of the financial toll of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are proud to serve as a financial advocate and intermediary for affected homeowners, renters, and small business owners in facilitating financial recovery. We're not just saying this shit, we're actually doing it. Make me want to check your motherfucking emails. Nigga, was your business impacted? Did you file any of these claims? You say you got LLC, you better have at least one LLC, you fucking weirdo. If you got an LLC, then you would have got the message from the SBA. They told you the same fucking forms to file that everybody else was filing. Fuck you mean pro-blacks ain't doing nothing, they ain't even trying, they don't got a track record. This isn't talking the facilitation. Oh, my bad, let me go further. Since our Hope Inside disaster COVID-19 response began 5 weeks ago, they give you a timeline. We have provided more than 14,500 virtual financial recovery services. Work. Pro-blacks are actually showing receipts. Who are you subscribed to? What are you doing with your life that you were missing this information that you got to come to a debate and say we got to show receipts? No, I said, yeah, we need more of this because when I look at this number, 14,000, I know that there's a million Black businesses, but I understand the game. That it is still media and advertising. And what you're giving media or calling media, our Black media, look, we got work to do. So you invite me to a debate, I'm going to give you global statistics of how the Black man is kicking ass and taking names. And yes, I know there are those who are very misfortunate, but I'm still going to give you this perspective of Black men who are kicking ass and taking names, that if anybody across the globe ever finds your information, they find at least one brother who is better equipped to articulate the position of Black men and the small businesses that we're operating. And even in the time of a pandemic, there are Black men stepping up in true forms of leadership. That's the pro-Black that I would have the conversation on. So who the fuck are they talking about? Because during my debate, and I got 11 minutes. During my debate, I brought out some real living examples of the social and economic political struggle against that mass incarceration. A strong pro-Black argument. Instead of having a debate about that, They talked about some hypothetical scenarios and a generalization of there are some B1s and some B1s. And I will not mischaracterize the debate, but I will tell you that what I got from it is that he would rather have the conversation from the lens of either the bougie blacks and them being assimilated, or the conversation about Pookie and Ray Ray and what does doing anything for Pookie and Ray Ray do to benefit the majority of us. And that's just not where my headspace is, because we got real work to do. Ain't nobody sitting there complaining about Pookie and Ray Ray. And if you, the moments of bliss as a drug dealer, when they're not getting caught up or not getting persecuted and prosecuted for what they're doing, they're still just being entrepreneurs like anybody else out there selling some form of product. Miss me with this selective disenfranchisement that is disproportionately impact Black lives. That's what we're going up against. And those who are trying to work for the improvement of those who have gone legit are still not getting their message out because we're having conversations around these old mamas. Nah, bruh. These Black men have work to do. I still got about 9 minutes. And so I'm going to go on and give some more of the receipts that are actually there. It just depends on who you listening to. Because undoubtedly they got a problem with somebody and they just really don't got money for a plane ticket. Including credit and money management coaching, small business counseling, and loan application assistance. They was there to help. And less than 15,000 actually went through this one. Now, other people could figure it out. I think that's the big number. If you already were able to fill out your LLC and you were already somebody that was either in the red, which means that you know you got taxes in the rear, you owe them, you probably didn't file, so therefore you was going to need some help right now. And they said, look, if you didn't file, you was like, shit, that was me. Whatever it is that comes with your business. Look, I know a lot of small businesses that, or Black people who started businesses and they just didn't really do shit with them. So that's why they didn't file nothing regarding them. And so they didn't even have the established track record of that business. And now you let that same business try to walk in there and get a loan and they'll feel like they're discriminated against because they wouldn't even filing their paperwork no more. They didn't have a track record. I debate that it's necessary for them to have that track record. And my opponent says, well, where's the track record? And they still say that dude lost. When he was supposed to be arguing that it's not important to have a track record. Man, miss me. That dude either got to debate me when he's in his real peace of mind and he gonna have to show his track record since that's what he's asking for, or I'll take the other side of the debate and debate it that way and say, nah, niggas ain't got to show you shit. Pro-Blacks don't got to prove shit to you. Who is you? You not the authority. Say it from that way. But I was being real respectful. Even though the conversation seemed to keep diverting itself towards LGBTQ, which is just another part of the African-American struggle, I would always defend Charles Baldwin. I would always defend Baldwin over some of these uppity Negroes. I said it myself. I would stand there and defend Charles Baldwin before I defended Robert Smith, the richest African-American in America right now. Not just the richest African-American man, but the richest African-American in America right now. I would defend Charles Darwin first, and it would come more naturally to defend him because that is a refutation on civil rights. That is the pro-Black thing that I've been espousing my life. Look, it's not just equality or equal protection under the law, but I'm really trying to whoop some ass out here economically. So yeah, social, economic, and political civil rights. That's John Hope Bryant. He got the book on it, and he also has the book that says The Memo. I would recommend reading that shit if you're trying to progress on civil rights, but you still understand that this shit is still race. Julius Caesar. And I know they finna go on and they finna have a real good build. They finna talk about these opportunity zones. And that shit important to me is in the manosphere, they be talking about real. And I've heard quite a few of them brothers got more than 4 already. So if it's more than 4 already in portfolio, then what does the entire portfolio of that one network on the Negro manosphere when it comes to real estate look like? That might be one good book of business, and it's sold together by one person, my homeboy O'Shea Duke Jackson. And so because of that, man, and my respect for my homie from the hood for developing such a platform, I will not continue to go in on those system or save yourself black man ass weirdos. And out of respect for that dude's platform and his ability to network, I won't go in on those clowns. But an L? How, Sway? Ain't no damn way that's an L. Y'all niggas got to be fucking kidding me. It's only an L if you come from the perspective that African Americans literally are so disadvantaged. No, the disadvantage refers to the perpetual state, the policies that are still in place, the fact that anti-lynching tried to cross over the line again, but it's still white senators saying no, as if it's okay to lynch people. Excuse me, I wasn't pro-black politically correct right there. As if it's still okay to lynch niggas. Because if you're conservative black, well, nobody says anything about the black on black crime in Chicago. But they still haven't passed the law that says it's not okay to lynch niggas. While at the same time lynching niggas and then complaining about niggas lynching niggas and then complaining about niggas being lynched. And the very same people who say that they are for the community, who say, look, we're going to need better political capital. We're going to need representatives. We're going to need the J.C. Wattses, just like we're going to need those economic brothers who have influence in the banking sector, like John Hope Bryant. Shout out Citizens Trust and the rest of them teams that are putting it together to make sure hope in a box and financial literacy is something that reaches our underserved communities. What was my point again? The great liberators. The great liberators seems to be an emancipating position, seems to be a strong channel. The potential of that channel, I hope, is realized even in these moments. And I will declare myself a troll because I don't got to fuck with weirdos and I don't got to fuck with clowns. I think last night debate, the dude was just busy. That is Brother Amiri, the host of the Great Liberators, who they say I took an L to. Now, the people who said I took an L already know what's up with them. These dudes they're pushing the conversation from a conservative perspective. I understand that. They can go back and forth, but there are some real weirdos that I just will not debate again. There are some real clowns that I just will not debate again out of respect for those pages. I can't keep taking L's to these people and they're not even talking facts. And they surrendered debate. They yield the debate during the debate and then the people still said they won. That's how you know that somebody wasn't even paying attention, which means either I'm talking over their heads or these dudes really ain't about this life. And if all you do is work for the man every night and day, salute to you, take care of yourself, brother, that's you. But the conversation around pro-blacks and what pro-blacks are and are not doing is not your business, and they don't got to show you shit. Because you don't even claim to be one of us, nigga. You don't even claim that one. In fact, you claim to be closer to the people who would be working against us the whole time. If you want to check out who my competition was, that is the Great Liberators. They do have a channel that does have a hell of a lot of conversations around blacks, talking congressmen, talking relationships. And I also heard Brother Amiri, the host, talk about economics. Now, somebody wants to know, does Amiri flip-flop or are niggas just dumb? I haven't seen that one. Some of the ones that I watched were actually exceptional. He had one that had Cynthia G on there, as well as a brother I recognize from Sonetta TV and the House of Consciousness, Imam Bashir was on there. That was a big build too. That one was like 5 hours for those folks who do research and just have that music playing in the background or have that information driving some more positive energy in the background, rather than just watching a Netflix or rather than just, I don't know what people listen to nowadays, the Motown, they listen to that hippity hoppity shit. I don't know. But in any event, let me get back to it. Give my B1 salute Brother George says, when did I debate? We debated last night, but it wasn't actually a debate because legitimately the dude was really still working. And so every time he came to the debate, out of, I guess, respect for me for saying there, he didn't want to not show up, it seemed like. So he would just go back to saying anything. But everything that he was saying, it was disrespectful. It had nothing to do with anything that the debate was actually about. As you know, in a debate, you open up with your position. He opened up with his position. I opened up with mine. And then you move into the rebuttal. And that's where it just went nowhere. And so because of that, I understand that he was preoccupied in his mind and not able to focus on the context of the debate. By the third rebuttal, he said, I see the point. After that, I said, so y'all heard him see the point, but we're here for you. Let's keep it going. Rapid fire. He acknowledged that. So we did a little bit of rapid fire just to keep the protocol going. But at that point, it was only like 21 people even there, even watching anymore. And then finally, we went into the closing arguments. And even on the closing arguments, it was just more talk about pro-black this, pro-black that, show me the receipts. So it was a whole lot of him being on the position that he was arguing against and then trying to cover that up, saying, nah, it was messy, George, at best. I was hot, though. Even like when you rewatch it on the Prophet of Thought series, listen to that. Boy, I was hot. I was hot. Now, I wasn't talking in terms that I am today. I'm just over right now, so I'm going to hop off. But, yeah, the debate was last night. It was a good one from my perspective on delivering information, real sources, real facts, real relevant. I got to share on that space. And so I salute the brother. They're going to have to either see me again or they're going to have to shut the fuck up to me, or I just leave them alone and continue to operate. But for me, that was it. He was distracted. If he wants to run that fade, then we can on an actual debate when he has the time to listen. But that motherfucker wasn't listening at all. I disrespected. And then you know him, well, the B1s and the Pookies and the Ray Rays and what happened to marriage? What was the marriage rate? Bro, that I didn't say none of that shit. Why do you keep using that talking point that was completely irrelevant? And he's like, well, marijuana would benefit everybody. I'm like, so what the fuck is wrong with that? It was like, if he replays it and listens to some of the stupid ass shit he was saying, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Anyway, I thought it was a real sign of disrespect only because I did the research. I even liked a couple of the videos that were 6-hour videos of who he was. Watched some of the old videos and liked everything. And he even commented, he even had a debate where some white boy gave him like a fucking dissertation. And I went in and just said, he liked it or something. And I just like that one, like, damn, I like how you even handled that. And so it seems like he's not a weirdo, and he's just conflicted, to say the most. And with that, I'm going to leave it alone. B1 Brother Moses, hey, Brother Amiri's on the hit list, man. Watch that dude. Right now, he's either motherfucking agent to me, something ratchet. I got to get some real dirt. Like, I'm not a doxer, but something real ratchet. Just what do you say about a motherfucker to antagonize a motherfucker and to troll them until they run that fade? See, in my neighborhood, you can get whooped on once, but if you didn't go back and try to fight him again, you had to get whooped twice before your big homies was like, all right, that was fair one and let it go. But if you got your ass whooped once, they would tell you, you got to go get your get back. And I'm that type of nigga. Nigga either got to give me my get back or he's some type of fucking agent or some type of weirdo. Either run back the fade or nigga, you ain't real. You wasn't really asking the question in the first place. This Moses. All right, and I'm out.